You most likely already know that ITR Economics is regularly helping businesses prepare for the coming 2030s depression. But did you know that we're also dedicated to giving advice to the younger generations too? We meet internally with employees to provide updates and answer questions that will help them position themselves and their families for prosperity in this age of decline. In this video, we've gone to the streets to interview a few people on what they think about economic depression and how that might impact them. From there, our president, Beaulieu, provides counsel and tools to help multiple generations prepare their personal lives for the economic storm that lies ahead.
Terrible things like scenes of people like waiting in like bread lines or unemployment, no one being able to like feed their family.
I think of doom and gloom, so I picture people in long lines at the food pantry, lots of people without jobs, and that going on for a very long time.
When I think of a Great Depression, I think of high unemployment, I think of mom and pop businesses closing, people suffering, people not able to fulfill the American dream and buy their own homes.
Perfectly reasonable and to be expected, and there's nothing wrong with their concern level for themselves and for other people and for the country. I think they may be forgetting that the 2030s will not be the 1930s. And you say Great Depression, people have black and white grainy photographs in their mind, and they think of long red lines and all sorts of bad things going on. We're a different country now. We have Social Security, we have FDIC. There was no FDIC back then, so your savings were gone. There were not nearly as many social safety net programs, both private and public, so there were really long bread lines, but these days it would be different. There will still be social problems for a lot of people because you can't go without your paycheck for a year and expect that you'll stay in your apartment or your house. So you might find more families living together, 3 generations, 2 generations, siblings, something to help each other get by. So it'll be stressful. It will not be fun for a lot of people, especially the unprepared, but it's not going to be as dire as some of those people I think thought. There was an interesting comment that somebody made about starting a job, starting a business, I think was actually the phrase. And the Depression will be a perfect time to do that because an entrepreneur who's good with his or her hands, you have a woman who's a good plumber, she'll have work. You have a guy who's a good welder, he'll have work. So you just won't have the overhead of working for a big company. You won't have all the benefits of working for a big company, but you'll make a paycheck. And you'll bring it home and you'll take care of your family. It's a perfect time for somebody with skills in that time period. Truck driver, not so much, but the trades, carpentry and all the rest, be a wonderful time to be able to stand on your own 2 feet because homes will still need to be repaired. And people will still want their bathroom renovated and those sorts of things because if there are 20% unemployed, there's 80% working. And they're not going to buy and build a new house, but they're going to repair a lot of house. And they're not going to buy a new car all the time, but they're going to repair their car. Entrepreneurial spirit will be the key. And that's what concerns me sometimes is I wonder how much of that is left. We still have more in this country than most countries, but it can also be easy to say, I'll let the government take care of me. But in our forecast, the government doesn't have a lot of money. The government will do its best, I'm sure. But if borrowing is tough, interest rates are high, and there's money needed for defense and other things, it'll be hard to provide the COVID kind of money in this next national crisis.
Miss a paycheck or two, I can survive, but if I'm like laid off and can't find a place to work for 6 months or a year, that's going to be a problem.
I would be very concerned, mostly for my kids who are just kind of getting started in life. I think about that all the time, actually. I think about, are they going to have the same opportunities that I had, that me and my husband had, where we were able to really, like I said, the American dream, like we were able to put our noses to the grindstone and say, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to buy a house. We're going to start a business. All those types of things, they seem in a Great Depression that would be a little bit out of reach for the younger generation.
I'd be very concerned. Everyone's livelihood depends on their job, and so I'd be very concerned about losing my job, and then what? How would I pay my mortgage and my bills?
Well, the debt issue is a real big one, and let's start there. Out of debt doesn't mean you shouldn't have a mortgage. If you have a 3% mortgage you had before the mortgage rates went up, don't even think about paying that off. You just want to ride that until it's paid off naturally, because you can invest your money elsewhere. If you have the money to pay off your mortgage, don't. Make it earn 5-7% off to the side. You're ahead financially. That's an easy one. And then if you don't have the money to pay it off, just don't worry about it, because you'll have an affordable home mortgage payment through the rest of this decade. And with wages going up, it'll become easy to make that payment. And then if wages go down in the Great Depression, which after a couple of years they may slide some, it'll still be an easy payment to make. So there's no real incentive to pay off your low interest mortgage. You just hang on to that and enjoy the ride. As far as savings, I think people mean that in a generic way. If that's literally a savings account, well, right now it's not bad because savings accounts are paying more, but there are better things that you can do with your money than they go into savings accounts. And the ITR Optimizer is certainly one of them. Talk to a wealth advisor. Make sure you're maxing out your 401k or your IRA account. Roth IRA might be the best thing for a lot of people. Talk to somebody about it. And so instead of putting, I'm going to make up a number, $5,000 a year away into your local bank and earning very little interest, see about putting that $5,000 into a Roth IRA, and you'll have much better bang for your buck and be that much better off. And if you can put $5,000 away for the next 6 years, we may say it's only $30,000, but for a lot of people, saving $30,000 is a big deal, right? That's not everyday change for most people. So you go into the Great Depression with your $30,000. It's in equities. You don't want to stay in equities. ITR will let everybody know when to get out of equities, probably around the year 2032, 2031. And we'll say sell your equities and go into bonds. And it's going to be Swiss or Swedish bonds, maybe Australian, maybe even Canadian bonds, but not US bonds. So you take your $30,000, you're going to buy bonds, and the market falls, and you're going to find that your bonds now would sell at a premium, so they're worth more. So you may be getting 4 or 5% on your bonds, but they'll sell for more when you go to sell them. ITR will say, sell your bonds. So that $30,000 has been making 5%. It's going to sell at a premium because the world thinks it's falling apart. So your $30,000, maybe you'll get $35,000 for it. You're going to put them back into equities near the bottom, and ITR can tell you when. And ITR Economics, we're pretty good at this sort of thing. So you put your $35,000 in there, which is a nice nest egg for some folks, but the usual bounce out is 2 to 4x. So that means that $35,000 becomes $70,000 or $140,000 just because you had it in the right place. So while you scrimp to make $35,000, because of the Depression bounce, all of a sudden you have $140,000 that you're walking into the rest of your life with. And if it's still invested, you still have another 20 years where that $140,000 is going to be compounding. So without the Depression, you'd be compounding $35,000. Because of the Depression, you're compounding $140,000, and voila, your retirement looks a lot better than it ever could have otherwise. It's how it works. Or you say to yourself, I am so tired of living in an apartment. I don't want to live in an apartment anymore. And so you say to yourself, okay, if I can save up that $35,000 and keep it available, sell my bonds when I want to buy a house. I look at a multifamily, I go, I'm going to be the landlord. There'll be a lot of multifamilies for sale in the Depression because people who bought near the peak won't be able to hang on to them. There'll be a lot of single family homes for sale too. And so at lesser prices, you'll be able to take your $35,000, walk in and buy a home in the Great Depression that you may never have been able to afford otherwise. It'll be a castle to you, right? You're going to buy your own first castle, and it'll be so much fun. And it's courtesy of the Great Depression that you're able to have a house of your own to live in for the rest of your life.
I think just save up as much as possible. Have a big emergency savings just in case any of us lose our jobs. We have something to fall back on.
I try to make sure that I don't have excessive debt, pay my bills on time, I have a savings account, that type of thing, but a real actual Great Depression, I would hope that we would be prepared, but I guess I don't really know the answer to that question.
By the end of this decade, you really don't want to have any credit card debt. Try to go in that with your car paid off, and at least by the early 2030s, make sure that it's paid off. And it doesn't have to be on just January 1, 2030, but soon thereafter. Your car is paid off, no credit card debt. Like I said, if you have a mortgage, that's fine. And in between now and then, that working person, I'm going to sound like such an old person when I say this, you have to live below your means. There is no option. You have to live below your means, so that while you're scraping by and you think, oh, let's go out to dinner at, Chez Vachon and blow $50 tonight on a meal. You have the discipline to go, let's go to somewhere where we'll spend $30 and put the other 20 away. And you just constantly, every decision's based upon living below my means and being able to save a minimum 10% of your pay, 20%'s better. And as you do that, you will slowly build up a nest egg. Now, if that person's already in debt, this is what they do. They look at their debt and they rank it. What's my smallest payment? My second largest, third largest payment. And you go, I'm going to make extra payments on that small payment. And when that's gone, I'm going to take that payment, I'm going to put it to my second largest one. And then when that's gone, I'm going to put it on my third largest one. And next thing you know, over a matter of the years that are in front of us, unless it's an incredible amount of debt, it's gone. And all that cash now is freed up in their income so that they can do the things we talked about before. Now, if they lose their job, they'll have some cash cushion. And if they need to move in with mom or dad or brother or sister or whatever it happens to be, or their kids, they're young people, never mind, not their kids, but somebody else, they may have to do that, but they'll do so without debt, and where they can take a job where they can at least feed themselves and take care of their family. This is not an apocalypse. I tell audiences all the time, this is not a zombie apocalypse. This is a depression, and it's an entirely different thing. Most people picture a dystopian world because of all the movies and everything else. This is not dystopian. This is just the worst recession you've ever seen. And if you have a heart as a human being, you will reach out to help people. You will give to our organizations that are making a real difference in this world. You'll avoid the ones who don't. And you will find that humans will pull together to help other humans to a great extent.